You have slain a dormant beast, the Mountain King's larva.
Sonny fell breathlessly to his knees. His whole body felt as though it just went through a meat grinder. Even large amounts of adrenaline could not wash away all the pain and exhaustion. And yet, he was exhilarated. The satisfaction of killing the larva was so vast that he even forgot to be disappointed about not receiving a memory, the special item tied to a dream realm inhabitant's essence, which was sometimes awarded by the spell to the triumphant awakened. A magic sword or a suit of armor would have come in handy right about now. He would even settle for a warm coat. 3 seconds. You can rest for 3 more seconds, Sonny thought. The nightmare was far from over. A few moments later, he forced himself to come back to his senses and looked around, trying to assess his situation. The larva was dead, which was great. However, he was still tied to it by the damned chain. The shifty slave and the scholar, both pale as death, were busy untangling it to buy the 3 of them at least some freedom of movement. Further away, torn bodies and pieces of flesh were lying on the ground. Many slaves were killed. The lucky few who had somehow managed to escape were now running away.
Fools. They're dooming themselves.
The chain jerked towards where they ran, but then suddenly went slack. A burst of hope filled Sonny's chest, but it was quickly dashed when he realized he was still attached to the scholar and the shifty slave. At some point, the chain must have broken in 2. If their shackles had a less sophisticated locking mechanism, he would have tried to pick the lock and free himself. Unfortunately, each pair was fixed to a specific link. Without unlocking them, no one was going anywhere. The tyrant, Mountain King, was hidden from sight by the bright glow of the bonfire. Sonny could feel his movements, however, due to the subtle tremors spreading through the stones. Screams of the slaves who were yet to perish filled the night. The soldiers, who were still alive, bellowed out, desperately trying to fight off the monstrosity. What pulled Sonny's attention the most, however, was the fact that several of the maimed bodies were starting to move. More larvae? His eyes widened. One after another, 4 more corpses slowly rose to their feet. Each beast looked as disgusting as the first had, and not a bit less deadly. The nearest was mere feet away from Sonny. Damn it all! He thought. Then, weakly, I want to wake up. A strange clicking filled the air. One of the beasts turned its head towards Sonny's group of slaves and gnashed its fangs. The shifty slave fell on his ass, whispering a prayer, while the scholar just froze in place. Sonny's eyes darted to the ground, trying to find something to use as a weapon. But there was nothing there. But he wasn't about to give up. Full of vitriol, he simply wrapped a length of chain around his knuckles and raised his fists. Come at me, you bastard! The larva dashed forward with incredible speed, in a flurry of claws, fangs, and terror. Sonny had less than a second to react. Before he could do anything, a nimble figure moved past him, and a sharp sword flashed in the air. The monster, beheaded with one strike, fell gracelessly to the ground. Sonny blinked. What was that? Dumbfounded, he slowly turned his head and looked to his left. Standing there, with a valorous expression, was the handsome young soldier who had offered him water. He looked calm and collected, if a little grim. There was not a speck of dirt or blood on his leather armor. That was incredible, Sonny thought before catching himself. I mean, that was all right, I guess. With a short nod, the soldier moved forward to face the remaining 3 larvae. But after taking a few steps, he suddenly turned around and gave Sonny a long look. Then, With one swift motion, the young warrior took something from his belt and threw it to Sonny.
Save yourself.
With that, he was gone to fight the monsters. Sonny reflexively caught the item and watched the soldier go. Then he lowered his gaze and studied the thing clutched tightly in his hand. It was a short and narrow iron rod with a straight bend on its end.
Is it a key?
His heart began to beat faster.
It's the key to the shackles. It has to be.
With one last glance at the fierce battle starting between the young soldier and the larvae, Sonny dropped to one knee and began twisting his shackles, maneuvering them into a position he could work with. It took him a few tries to understand how the unfamiliar lock worked, but then, finally, there was a satisfying click, and he was suddenly free. The cold wind caressed his bloodied wrists. Sonny rubbed them and smiled with a dark gleam in his eyes. For a moment, visions of violence and revenge filled his head.
Boy, over here!
The shifty slave was waving his hands in the air, trying to get his attention. Sonny briefly considered leaving him to die, but then decided against it. There was strength in numbers. He hurried over to the other two slaves and quickly unlocked their shackles. As soon as the shifty slave was free, he pushed Sonny away and did a little dance, laughing like a maniac.
Ha! Free at last! Gods must be smiling upon us.
The scholar was more reserved. He squeezed Sonny's shoulder in gratitude and smiled weakly, casting a tense look in the direction of the ensuing fight. 2 of the 3 larvae were already dead. The third one was missing an arm, but still trying to tear its opponent apart. The young soldier danced around it, moving with the grace of a natural-born warrior.
What are you waiting for? Run!
The shifty slave made a move to run away, but was stopped by the scholar. Benny, my friend, I would...
If you say advise again, Fraser, I swear to the gods I will bash your head open.
The 2 slaves looked at each other with open animosity. A moment later, Fraser lowered his eyes and sighed. If we run away now, we will surely die.
Why?
The older slave simply pointed at the tall bonfire. Because without that fire, we will freeze to death before the night is over. Until the sun rises, running away is suicide. Sonny did not say anything, knowing that Fraser was right. He realized it right after strangling the larva. No matter how terrible Mountain King was, the bonfire was still their only lifeline in this frozen hell. It was as what the broad-shouldered slave, may he rest in peace, had said. There was no need for anyone to kill them. The mountain itself would do it.
So what? I would rather freeze to death than be eaten by that monster. Or, turn into one of those things.
Benny was pretending to be brave, but there was no conviction in his voice. He glanced at the darkness surrounding the stone platform and shivered before taking a small step back. At this point, the third larva was long dead, and the young soldier was nowhere to be seen. He had probably gone to join the fight at the other side of the bonfire, leaving the 3 slaves alone at the mountainside part of the stone platform. The monster might be sated with those it had already slain. It might be defeated or driven away by the Imperials. If we stay here, we have a chance to survive, however small. But if we run away, our doom will be certain.
So what do we do?
Unlike Fraser, Sonny was sure that the Mountain King would not be satisfied until all of the trespassers to its lands were dead. What chance did a bunch of mortals have to defeat such a tyrant? Even if they were not normal people, but awakened, a fight with a tyrant was not something one could easily survive, let alone win. But if they wanted to live, they had to get rid of that thing somehow.
Let's go take a look.
Benny looked at him as though seeing a lunatic.
Are you insane? You want to get closer to that beast?
As if on cue, the great beast roared in the distance. Sonny shrugged.
We have to do something. I'd rather die fighting. Come on.
Sonny turned and strode off toward the rampaging monster.